Here's Zach himself.
I think the term failing forward,
Yeah.
always kind of sticks with me in that aspect. Learning from your mistakes, I guess.
Yeah. I've also heard like fail faster, like meaning like we're all gonna fail.
Right.
And it's like you have an idea, you want to try something, you don't know if it's going to work. Well, let's figure out as quickly as possible.
Right.
So if it is going to fail, we know as quickly as possible and on to the next thing.
Right. So I'm not afraid to fail and learn as long as I learn from it.
Yeah. Which, coming back to the points you were making earlier about tracking, you have a system and a process around your values and your communication. Like tracking that stuff is key, because if you don't track it, like how do you know you're failing?
Right.
Like you can put all this work into budgeting and estimating.
Right.
Get that just perfect.
Yeah.
But then if you're not tracking your actual labor,
right.
like if you're always 10, 15, 20% over on your hours, I mean, that's the difference between making money and not making money at all.
Yeah.
Or going out of business.
Yeah.
And the other thing is like people are like, just look at how much money I have in the checking account. Okay, well, sure. If times are good and things are going well, you can survive that way. But what are you going to do the day that something goes wrong?
Yeah.
The day the cash payroll can't be met. Like,
sure.
Where's the leak?
Yeah.
How do you know? Hey guys, welcome back to the SynkedUP podcast. We're not sure yet which episode this is because we're recording like a whole bunch of them here.
Okay.
But my name is Weston Zimmerman. I'm one of the founders of SynkedUP. I'm here with Zach Hinkle from Hinkle Hardscape, right? That's your business name, yeah.
Hinkle Hardscape.
So we're here in Kansas City, Missouri, and it's always a good time to come out here to Kansas City. One, for the people, like there's like 6 or 7 SynkedUP users around here. The barbecue.
Yeah. That's what, 3 times now? Or
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But no, hey, thanks for your hospitality, and it's a pleasure to come out here and check out your jobs.
Yeah. Well, thanks for setting up the podcast out here. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Glad we could help.
It's kind of cool that we got here when we did, because there's literally a pool getting dropped in here in like an hour.
Yeah.
And there's a crane lifting a huge pool over this huge house, so that'll be fun to see. But why don't we start with tell me how you got into where you're at today. Like, how did you get into the business?
Well, in 2007 we started. Actually, we still have our number one employee over there in the straw hat. Me and him started the business in 2007.
Wow.
In the driveway of my house. So.
No kidding.
Yeah, just bought it. Had a kid on the way, and my old job. It was right before the financial, thing hit, and so I was getting laid off from my last job. So we started doing basically mowing and landscaping, and quickly ventured from that into doing more of just hardscapes, I would say, or just larger landscapes and hardscapes. We kind of dropped the mowing after the first 1 to 2 seasons.
Okay.
That was something to get us into the business, but it wasn't really something I enjoyed.
Yeah.
And we weren't making a ton of money off of it.
Yeah.
So anyway, we went from landscaping, dropped the mowing, just did landscaping, and at that time hardscapes. And then in 2014, I believe it was 2014, we rebranded from KC Lawn and Landscaping to Hinkle Hardscapes, and then just have solely done hardscapes projects, anything to do with patios, pools, patios, and outdoor living. We did our first pool in 2016.
Okay.
So a few years after that, and have been doing pools ever since.
Okay. So what is what's your perfect project look like? Like your favorite, like this is what we do, this is what we're the best at. What does that look like?
I think we're best matched with a client who wants to do either patio area with an element. When I say element, like a fireplace or an outdoor kitchen.
So not just a 20 by 20 patio.
Right.
You want to do the design.
Yeah. We want to do the design build phase and take you through our process, and and same for a pool.
Yeah.
So a pool, we'd want to do not just a pool and 4 foot of gray concrete around it. We want to do a pool and
outdoor living
area. We're putting a bocce ball area here. Those are kind of becoming popular.
Okay.
So there's about where we're staying is going to be a bocce ball area. We'll have turf go on top of it when we're done, and then we got a wall going here and a little fire pit area over here.
Okay.
So
yeah, it makes sense.
So more along the lines of like an outdoor living environment, not just a singular piece of the project.
That makes sense. So you're blending these different elements in, the patio, the pool, the fire feature, the interactive, like the game, know. Yeah. So what was one of the biggest, like along your journey, I'm not even sure how many guys you have now. Well, how many guys do you have?
We have about 12 labor staff.
Okay.
We have 2 to 3 designers.
Okay.
We've got an office manager and then and a project manager.
Okay, and what role do you play now?
I'm more along, probably the CEO, the integrator in the business. So I look over sales, I look over the banking. I have people that are running those departments, but I just oversee and manage them. I'm on a lot of the larger sites like this. I've been out here shooting the drone yesterday, making sure we got this elevation set correctly, making sure projects get off to a smooth start. So more along that line.
Yeah, that makes sense. So like how long ago did you kind of work yourself into that role where you weren't like the lead guy on the field anymore?
I've been having foremen working under, we pretty much always had that, that was always the hierarchy. I always had, crew one, crew man number 2 or 3, and then a number 2, and then a number 1, and then, production manager, and then, same in sales. So I had designers, and then a sales manager, and then, myself that's overseeing them. But primarily, I would say ever since probably 2012, 2013.
Okay. So I know there's a lot of guys out there in the business that would love to be at that phase where, hey, the production is happening, but you're not there 40, 50 hours a week out in the field. Like, what would you say is kind of like, what would you say to someone that wants to achieve that? Like, what's key to actually successfully pulling that off?
I think just trusting the people that's working with you,
Not micromanaging.
Not micromanaging. I don't attack things from that perspective. I can tell, we set goals to have certain amount of production, or we might set a goal to have the pool dug. Yesterday was the pool dug by yesterday afternoon. Well, you can see we hit rock here and things changed and we had to adjust schedules. But that was our goal yesterday, was to have it set. Now, most of the times that happens. And so just kind of having a forward thinking outlook and kind of setting guys up to say, hey, by the end of the day, we would like to see this much of this project done. By the end of tomorrow, we want to see this much done. Just being kind of open and transparent with communication.
How do you handle it when that gets missed? Like, obviously, when you hit rock, it's a no-brainer why it got missed. But let's say it's less obvious. How do you happen when it gets missed?
I think it's determined. Anytime you're working in construction, I think anytime it's missed, I think it's a number of things that can happen. But it's finding a workable solution for both the management and the crew lead to come through as to why that happened, what we need to do to fix it, and what we can keep from doing that again if there is an instance where it's.
So I'm hearing like the management and the crew is agreeing on what happened. Because if you're arguing over to what happened, it's not productive. So you're agreeing on what happens, and then it's like, okay, well, how can we avoid this situation again? Or maybe we just learn and get better at our estimation in the first place,
And I've learned too, a lot of guys want to do the right thing.
Exactly, it's kind of
they want to do right. They don't want to be doing wrong. So, and generally speaking, it's, when I find that something may have not went right is we don't have the material on the site at the right time. Maybe there's something in the design that wasn't completely figured out before we got to this point that should have been figured out. So when you start backtracking, it's not usually just the crew guy's fault that's running behind. There's vendors, there's material, access to material. Machine breaks down.
What I like to think is like when you do miss those goals, like it's important to track back to the original source. Like, where did this get off the rails? As opposed to just flinging blame, which is kind of a human nature thing, and it takes work and discipline and leadership to not do that. And that's where I know from my experience with working with Steve and Matt Martin at Texas Landscaping, I mean, like, that's where you get people that stick around for 10, 15, 20 years is when they are in a healthy environment that they don't feel like they're attacked when things go sideways. And it's always like, how do we move forward? How do we get better?
I mean, that's the way we do it here. We learn forward. So
that's great. As you were growing your business, and when I say business, I don't just mean like your revenue. I mean like your team, your kind of your hierarchy and your roles you have in your business. Like, was there any particular challenge that you came across that was like particularly difficult that stands out to you?
Deciding what that hierarchy is probably the number one, and then putting the right person in the right seat and making sure you got the right, and at least even from crew standpoint, I mean, making sure a foreman can be a foreman. Like, is he wired to be a foreman? Is he in his right role? Is the designer in his right role? Is the person answering the phone in their right role? So a lot of those, that was probably the most difficult, and it still is, proves to be the most difficult question out there, is that do you have the right person in the right seat?
Do you have kind of do you just go by gut feeling, or do you kind of have a process where you like determine whether, hey, maybe when I interviewed them I thought they were great, but 3 weeks in they're not, you know?
Yeah. We've held, I mean, so we use the EOS system.
Okay, what's that?
That's the traction, it's the entrepreneurial operating. Yeah.
That book from called Traction, right? Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
So we do have our weekly IDS meetings. It's identify, discuss, and solve issues. Mm-hmm. So, and then each department's got to bring, we have a scorecard that we bring weekly, and they've got to, you know, report on, hey, the leads are coming in, we got this many leads coming in. Hey, sales, we've got this many sales coming in, we got this many proposals out. We start looking at our closing percentages on our jobs. Hey, production, we got this many jobs going on, we got this many jobs open, we got this in the backlog. This is what you got left to produce, this is what you produced this, you know, this month.
What stands out to me about that is that you're not living by the seat of your pants. Like, you're actually tracking these things, you're naming these things, you're communicating these things, you know, which sets a clear expectation.
Right.
People just kind of have a basic, and we all just want to know what's expected of us so I can do a good job at it.
Right.
You know, and you're then tracking it, which gives you the ability to make objective decisions. You can remove the emotion out of it. You can kind of just like, well, what's our track record? What do you know? And if you make changes in your business or how you run, or hire someone or whatever, you can be like, hey, this went up.
Right.
You know, so I like what you're doing. I always enjoy picking people's brains on leadership and like growing a team, and some people do a really good job at it.
Yeah.
So tell me, I know we were talking over lunch there, you were doing spreadsheets and then had a guy that was going to take that spreadsheet and turn it into software. Like, you kind of have a bit of a journey there. Like, what did that journey look like here for listening?
That was the Excel doc build out we were doing was a complete failure, like from almost every aspect of it. Even as we were going through it, after we got it to a doc that we could actually use, we found out the calculations were incorrect, like what it was marking things up, and which caused major job costing issues.
Yeah.
You know, when a designer thinks they're using this doc that we had bid and it's working, and then on the backside we're getting the job costing done, and we're like, holy cow, you know, and then you start going back and you're pulling data from job costing into this sheet, and you're like, holy cow, we're way off.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we had a complete disaster with that experience, and not only that, I think by the time we were done with it, it was like $35,000 that we had paid for something like that over
and
the
that's
course.
A failed project.
Yeah, over the course of, and this just wasn't like, I'm going to have you build this and get it to you in, you know, like 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
This was over the course of like almost a year and a half. So
unreal.
And when you get to a year and a half and you find out at the end of it, like, it's everything you've bid the last year is wrong.
Oh, see, we kind of had a similar story with SynkedUP. Like, we were a landscape company, a couple million in revenue, and we're like, nobody else is doing what we want to do, so we're going to go build it. Like, we literally had nothing but a dream.
Right.
And we were just too dumb to quit.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I was like, I'm not in the app business.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, that's just it. Like, people think, oh, I'll get something, or I'll have a guy build me something. It's like, okay, is it possible? Yes.
Yeah.
But which business are you in?
Right.
Because it's another whole, even if you think you're just going to do it for yourself, like, it's another whole animal.
Oh, yeah.
Like, somebody's going to own that thing. Somebody's going to communicate, like, what the requirements are, and then test it and figure out what the bugs are. Like, yeah, it's just, at the end of the day, it's like, go back to the question, like, what do I really want to do with my business?
Yeah.
And that's where I say we were naive, didn't know, you know, but yeah, here we are. I genuinely wanted to make a business out of it. That was kind of my vision with it from the beginning.
Yeah.
And fortunately, by the grace of God, here we are. We're still here, and we're taking off now.
Yeah,
so
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've enjoyed using I would say we're probably mostly using the design aspect of it.
Yeah.
We're slowly working into the scheduling phase and the backside of you know, the job costing and everything.
Yeah.
But we already have a bookkeeping company who basically follows every transaction that we ever do.
Okay.
And so she categorizes those. So,
Okay.
But it's good to see she's got pretty good data when we're done.
Yeah.
To be able to look at, what's coming in on SynkedUP and be able to double check those.
Yeah.
We just haven't got to the full on.
Why did you decide to jump over into SynkedUP with your business? What was the key thing that pulled you in?
We were using LMN, and I thought LMN was great. We took a lot, and it works for the design.
Yeah.
And
like the
estimating side of it works fine, but it feels like it felt like it was 2 or 3 different softwares that you had to like go. It's like you had to go on this side, and then no, you can't do that from there. You got to go into this. It's like so I just saw issues with it, with the actual frame of it, and having to communicate, is kind of archaic to me.
Yeah.
We do a lot of automation in our business, so we use HubSpot now.
Yeah, I know, you're a HubSpot power user. It's crazy.
So but we are going back to Infusionsoft.
Yeah, you're telling me, yeah.
But, so I software-wise, I understand what kind of it takes to make something work and be cohesive like that. And I started seeing red flags with LMN. And so I actually saw you guys at H&A, but I didn't stop. But I wanted more something interactive. So, and I think
through the whole flow of the whole project, yeah. And it's true. Like LMN has done a lot of good for the industry with their budgeting and their estimating. Like they've saved businesses, no doubt. Like they definitely have their strong points. But that was exactly what kind of our vision was. It was like, okay, that's great. Yeah. But we also want to then like follow through in the field and track that and communicate that stuff. And so, is there anything that stands out to you that's like, hey, this has been a good decision, or that has confirmed that you feel like you made the right decision, or anything that has been a challenge in implementing it?
I think implementation was pretty easy.
Okay.
So in our Excel doc, we had already created a bunch of formulas that would per se be a template.
Yeah, so you had some templates and production rates already in spreadsheets.
Right.
That you just basically just plug in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a big head start.
Now that we got all those up and running, I mean, this is like $200,000 project, and we were able to put the bid together accurately and quickly in 5-10 minutes.
Isn't that crazy? That's the power of templates right there.
Yep.
But at the same time, I see people come in here and overanalyze the template thing. It's like, well, don't let it stop. Like I kind of tell people, don't let it stop you from just getting out there and learning and doing the work and estimating. Like, we can always get the template thing later.
Yeah.
But that's the power of a template. Then you can do a multi-6-figure project in minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I mean, we look at it from different phases of the job, even like demo and prep.
Yeah.
So we've got all those numbered on our template side. So when even when you look at it, you're like, okay, well, I got to start and demo and prep this area. So I'm going to pull that template in. We put everything that's perspective and that could be in that template, and then if you don't need it, just delete it out.
Yeah, right.
So you don't have.
That's exactly what we do too. Yeah.
So if you start with demo and prep, and then you go to drainage, like, okay, how many downspouts are on the back of the house? Just.
Zach's brain thinks like a computer.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's kind of how I set it up. I wanted it to be so anybody could sit down and pop a template in.
Yeah. Which is a key thing if you're going to be growing a team, because taking the 20 years of experience that's in your head and teaching it to someone new is really hard. It takes a long time.
Yeah.
With templates and production rates, it's more of a system and a process. You can teach like, okay, the demo and prep, the drainage is next, and like you can teach a process that's like check.
Yeah.
And just like that, you have someone that doesn't have the 20 years experience like you do, but can still do a productive and actual accurate estimate.
Yeah. And then I think a lot of people, I've talked to people and they've, messaged me and such and I think they get kind of hung up on the labor.
Yeah.
And the only thing I would say is the material's easy to calculate.
Yeah.
So if you can get the materials in there and get it calculated actual, then what we do is we look at, after we get the job all the way in there, how we want it, I look at our day rate, which is 32 man hours a day is what we bid. And so if you look at that and you're like, wow, that project's coming in at 6-7 days, I'm gonna go 8. Then just go down and adjust one of the labor rates to whatever you guys work in a day, because everything's recovered by the hour anyway.
Yeah.
So I find that guys get stuck on the hours.
Yeah.
I would put the material in there correctly and then look at your hours from like all the work areas and divide that by, if you got 3-man crew working 9 hours, it's 27. If you got 4 guys at 8, we show up at the job site.
That's exactly what we do too. Yeah.
So then you're like, okay, that came in at like 4.25 days. Well, we won't do a 0.25 day.
So bump it up.
it'll go to 5.
Round it up to 5.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
Because you got to recover that overhead for that day that you're out there. Even if it only takes you 3 hours, you pretty much burned your productivity for that day.
right.
Yeah.
So then that's how we roll. So my hours probably aren't exact; they're close.
Yeah.
But then I look at an entire job, and our design team has me check their bid before it goes out.
Okay.
And I'll run through and look at pictures of the job site, pictures of their design,
Just kind of sanity
any
check it.
questions I see with it, and then I go right to the hours. I'm like, all right, I know from experience this is going to take 10 days to do. Then I make sure we got 320 hours in there.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. I like to ask this question from everybody. What's the best advice you were ever given in your business, in your life, that has been a good, valuable thing for you?
I think the term failing forward, always kind of sticks with me in that aspect of it. I don't think you can actually explain or know what it feels like unless you've been through it. And so a lot of times I think business owners have some downfalls and think it's like the end of their, journey or whatever, but actually, I don't know. I think learning forward, learning from your mistakes, I guess.
Yeah. I've also heard fail faster, meaning we're all gonna fail.
Right.
And it's like, you have an idea, you want to try something, you don't know if it's going to work. Well, let's figure out as quickly as possible.
Right.
So if it is going to fail, we know as quickly as possible and on to the next thing.
Right.
So
I'm not afraid to fail and learn as long as I learn from it.
Yeah. Which, coming back to the points you were making earlier about tracking, you have a system and a process around your values and your communication. Tracking that stuff is key, because if you don't track it, how do you know you're failing?
Right.
You can put all this work into budgeting and estimating.
Right.
Get that just perfect.
Yeah.
But then if you're not tracking your actual labor,
right.
If you're always 10, 15, 20% over on your hours, that's the difference between making money and not making money.
Right.
At all.
Yeah.
Or going out of business.
Yeah.
And the other thing is people are I'll just look at how much money I have in the checking account. Okay, well, sure. If times are good and things are going well, you can survive that way. But what are you going to do the day that something goes wrong?
Yeah.
The day that payroll can't be met?
Sure.
Where's the leak?
Yeah.
How do you know?
Yeah, you got to track all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I think it's knowing what to track. Because you can throw too much stuff on that
analysis
scoreboard.
paralysis, yep.
You can throw too much stuff on that scorecard.
Somebody's telling me if you need more than 5 numbers or 3 numbers, whatever the number, it was small. If you need more or 3 or 5 numbers to track your success, is too many.
Yeah, I think we're at 7. But we were at 15. I was like, I want to know that. I want to know that.
Exactly.
I'm sitting through the meeting I don't need to know that anymore. I want to know this.
Yeah.
So,
and you learn that through
actually doing it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because maybe you don't know which number you need to track. So you start with 15.
Yeah.
And then you kind of boil it down. Well, this one doesn't really matter. It's kind of distracting. This is what really matters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think getting it started, it's the same way with probably getting SynkedUP running. Get it started.
You get it implemented.
Get it implemented. Start using one piece of it.
Yeah.
Once you get one piece of it, go to the next.
Yeah.
I'm not going to throw it all at our whole team. I want you to know front end, middle end, and back end all at the same time. I just said, let's use this as our estimating software. We already had processes on the back end that were working, so we'll edge into the next one once we're comfortable with the design phase. So.
Yeah, that's great.
But
I was going to ask you, what's some of the numbers you're tracking, off the top of your head? What do you track in your business?
We track gross profit.
Okay.
That's where I know.
I remember we were having this conversation. Yeah.
I'm a gross profit guy.
Yeah.
I just went there. That was probably the best piece of advice I got from a guy that was doing $10 million a year. He was like, so what are you guys doing? I was like, well, we did 4.3. And he goes, yeah. Well, what'd you make?
What's the profit? Yeah.
How much did you make? And I said, he goes, you don't know how much money you made? I'm like, I think. He goes, no. He's like, and that's what I think some guys get caught up on the actual volume or that $4 million number. And he's like, it doesn't matter what you do. He's like, we do 10 million at a 50% gross profit margin's our deal. So we like to put 5 million to pay everybody, our overhead and everything else out of that. But, it's it doesn't matter what the number is. It matters what you put in your pocket.
That's right.
So he's like, you could do 3 million at 50% gross profit and bring in 1.5 million. Or you can do 3 million at 30%, that's only 900,000. Or you can do 4 million at 25%, that's only $1 million.
Yeah.
You start playing with the numbers, and you're like, yeah, it really doesn't matter what the number is. It matters what.
Yeah, and I can speaking to that point, I can see kind of trend in the industry a bit with the labor shortage, where guys are like, you know what, I'm not going to do 3 crews or 5 crews. I'm just going to like downsize my labor force, increase my equipment, and maybe I won't be doing 3, 5, 8 million anymore, but I'm going to be profitable, and I'm managing my the way I'm running my business. Call it a lifestyle business. Like you're actually living a life. Like you're not just being run ragged.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we went through the run ragged portion at 4.3.
Okay.
And so it just wasn't fun there. So learned a lot again, you know.
So you actually downsized from that point?
Yeah, our goal is to do like 3.5 now.
Okay. And which one would you, like now that you've done that one and now you got the 3.5, like which one do you like, which one would you recommend to people?
Oh, yeah. I would not even focus on the, you know, I would do 2.5 at 60% gross profit.
Right.
You know?
You'd rather do that than 3.5 at 50.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, there you go. Work less, make more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's easier on everybody.
Yeah.
Doesn't feel like everybody's running around with a chicken with their head cut off.
Yeah.
It's more, you know, it's about delivering an experience to the customer. And if you're chasing, you know, if you're having to do 100 jobs a year and put your guys through all that, your equipment through all that, somebody's managing that, somebody's, you know, ordering that, as opposed to, you know, doing 50 jobs a year or 60 jobs a year and still bringing in the same amount of money.
Yeah.
That's what you got to start.
Which one do you pick?
That's what you got to start weighing out.
That's a no-brainer.
And so, you know, when people tell now it's like, oh, I'm doing 5 million a year. I'm like, cool. What do you put in your pocket?
Yeah. And most of them don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but I find out, you know, $1.5 million company is way different than a $3 million company.
It is.
It's totally dynamics are different.
You're going to have to upgrade, like, there's a level of leadership that's required at that level that you can be a one crew company and do 1.5.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
But 3,
yeah.
I mean, it's pretty rare.
Yeah.
And so that means that things just spiral everywhere, like more crews, more management, more failure points, all that stuff.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. It's been a good chat.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being letting me poke and prod with some questions. And,
sure. Anytime.
You're doing some pretty awesome projects. I want to see the drone footage of that pool being set over the this massive house. Yeah. I'll show you this house. It's crazy. Okay. Well, shall we go figure out your drone?
Yeah.
Get that ready?
Sounds good.
All right. Well, thanks. Been an honor.
Thank you.
I just want to say thanks for being a part of the SynkedUP family, man.
Yeah.
And
we're excited to keep using it. So.
Yeah. We appreciate your support and love to be just a small part of your story.
Cool.